back at it once again like I left something. It's your boy Kosmon. That's right, it's your boy Kosmon Cal, man. Just checking back in from Etheria. You dig what I'm talking about? I came in, kicked off the moon boots down here in Ooze, chopping it real heavy with the faithists, the Essenes, the Nazarenes. Shout out to all the Israelites, man. Shout out to all the praises of the Great Spirit. Huh? That's right. Shout out to you, man. Halito, Asio, Ashe. Huh? Namaste. Shalom and peace. All my brothers and sisters out there, it's your boy Kosmon Cal, man. And as always, you know what we come to do. We come to balance all balances and check all checks, because you know what happens next when you see that butterfly vortex, man. Hey, today I'm coming at y'all, man. There's a lot of things we could talk about, but I didn't have a specific thing I wanted to bring up. You know what I mean? And if anybody want to come on, I'm gonna drop the link in the chat. Hold on one second. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat for anybody who just want to come on, kick it with your cousin them. Come on, kick it with your cousin them. Kosmon Cal, man. Let me see if I can get this up here real quick. Yeah. Right back at it, man. It's your boy Kosmon Cal. Cold night up here, man. It's about 4 degrees. That wind is blowing crazy. You dig what I'm talking about? Shout out to Snoopy Eats. Miles Davis in the house. Ray is in the house. Thank y'all, everybody, for stopping through, man. Peace to the righteous gods and Nirvanian goddesses, the created gang. Is definitely in the house, man. I personally been going, through some, my studies. You dig what I'm saying? And I find it odd how, a theory, a brand new theory, which is called the out of Africa theory. You dig what I'm talking about? People rely and place so much trust in this theory, you know what I mean? Which didn't even gain mainstream acclaim till 1989. It comes out of it was birthed from the Darwinist idea of race, which was compounded on by the Eugenics Society, and also played into the things like Jim Crow, redlining. You know what I mean? But with the understanding of truly who we are in these days, you know what I mean? And not just believing what anybody tells us about ourselves. You know what I mean? One of the major claims that I'm gonna stick to, and I'm gonna stay sticking to it, is the simple fact that the American Negro is a different type of person. He's not necessarily African. He is aboriginal to America. Owaspi claims that the God specify the certain people to be in North America in the Kosmon era. You would regularly know these people called Anguis, who are generally tall, copper colored, with long black coarse head. They would be praises of the Great Spirit and also of the indigenous stock of the Americas. Now, one of the ways you would have to try to go to prove um because they use these, they come with these statements like, oh, you dudes who claim this aboriginal stuff, you dig what I'm talking about, you don't like to use DNA. And honestly, DNA can lead you back towards ancestry, but DNA doesn't tell you who you are. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't give you culture. It won't give you skin color. You know what I mean? So it has its limitations. But one thing we do, we don't turn down the science. Now there are pseudosciences out there, you dig what I'm saying, but we don't say that all science is pseudo. And before we say that, we actually take time to actually look at the science. Now, the crazy part is using DNA, right? One of the ways that you would prove that a people descend from a people, right? A modern people descend from a people anciently is to use haplogroups in DNA markers. You dig what I'm talking about? Sometimes these various DNA markers play themselves out as uh in blood disorders. So one of the great things you find out when doing studying, you dig what I'm talking about, and you got to get this understanding. First of all, let's get this understanding. When we say, well, when I say Maya and Mayan, there are two different people at two different times. Now, when we gonna get into these studies that these scientists have put out about the genetics and the DNA of these ancient Mayans, you dig what I'm talking about? Know that I'm talking about people who are roughly around the time of Europeans coming to and pre-European uh contact. You know what I mean? And hold on, that looks small. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit, y'all. Let me see if I can blow this up. Hold on. Um, how do I shrink this dang old thing? Hold on, y'all. Okay. We'll get up out of there. Now, one of the things we find that traces a people, right? Now, we must remember. Let me see if everybody can see that. Let me go see if everybody. Oh, I gotta share that. My bad, y'all. Let me share this real quick. All right, let me see if I can blow it up. Okay. One of the ways we can trace people's genetic stock or the DNA is to trace certain DNA markers that are prevalent in certain peoples. Now, one thing we know about for sure is that the ancient Mayan, not the Mayan who comes in and meets, well, that Mayan too, but not the guy who is portrayed a Mayan after the so-called Atlantic slave trade, but the man who predates Columbus coming to America and also predates Spanish contact or European contact in general, right? These people, these Mayans, were well known and through DNA have been proven to have sickle cell anemia, right? Now, the Mayans got this sickle cell anemia trait, you dig what I'm saying, because in the Americas, right? In the Americas, the water count and amount of water bred mosquitoes, and as a evolutionary what's the word I want to, as a evolutionary safe place, the genes that are already in the body of every human because of the stressors of the environment are activated. So to combat the disease malaria, the ancient Incans, the ancient Mayans, you dig what I'm talking about? The ancient Olmec and all them, because of the environment, had the sickle cell trait to fight off malaria, which was a very, very devastating disease. Now, it's funny, they call us Africans, right? And if we was Africans, we wouldn't have no problem about it. As I like my spliffer thing. And but we got to be able to prove that. Now, so we see that in modern America or now, just so people don't think that, you know what I'm saying, do the ancient Mayans have sickle cell? That I'm just talking and making this up. You dig what I'm talking about? This is well known science. You dig what I'm talking about? Well known science. And I'm gonna show you that these people that they commonly call Mayans today, right? The Mongoloidal, more Asian looking type aren't the people historically. How do we know? Because remember the ancient Mayans, right, had sickle cell anemia. As much as 12% of the population. Modern Americans have about 10%, or 1 in every 365 people. So roughly 10 to 12% of the population. Our nearest in this sickle cell anemia trait is the African, but it comes later in time during the transatlantic slave trade time or European contact colonization time. And the bones that were tested of the Mayans, of the 25, there were 25 of these ancient Mayans tested, and their DNA showed that they had this signature, and they were not Qs, as in a haplogroup. They had the sickle cell anemia trait, and they were A's, B's, C's. You dig what I'm talking about? So, as in haplogroups. Now, this is a Y chromosomal test on modern, mind you, remember the moderns have the Asian or Mongoloidal type cut. But I want you to see their Y chromosome to show you why that these people who they are testing and saying are the Indians aren't. Why? Because we can trace their Y DNA. That is the father's line, right? Let's go look what they're saying. And we want to show that these groups, right? These Qs, Q, you know what I mean? You can tell a people by their disease. That's mostly prevalent in their people. You dig what I'm talking about? You can tell it what one is, and we're gonna see what the prevalent disease in this Q or this Asian American type, Native American type. In spite, let's see what it say. Right here, let's go right to the introduction. Well, let's give a little background, right? Let's give a little background on it. Right. Now, remember, they talking about right here. Let's go. Let's go right here. No, let's go back up. Let's back up to show you that they talking about modern Mayans, the people who down there saying they Mayans right now. You dig what I'm talking about? Juan Valdez and them, El Chapo and them talking about they Mayans. You dig what I'm talking about? Let's see if they Mayans. To accomplish this, 5 geographically targeted and ethnically distinct Mayan populations are designated Y-SNP and YSTR markers. Findings overall, the Mayan population as a group are highly homogeneous. They should be. They've been down there doing their thing with who they've been doing with for a long time. Basically made up of 2 autochthonous haplogroups, which is the QM3 and the Q1L54. Although the YSTR data illustrates diversity. This diversity, for the most part, is uniformly distributed among geographically distant populations. So what they're saying is these same people mess with the same people and they look the way they look because they Y haplogroup, which they looking at, right, is pretty much that these people that they looking at in the modern Mayan is pretty much homogenous, which means they're kind of the same, right? But we got to see who they are, right? To know, to see if they could even possibly even be American. Watch this. Similar haplotypes among populations, abundance of singletons, and absence of population partitioning within networks among Mayan populations suggests recent population expansion, and substantial gene flow within the Mayan dominion, possibly due to the development of agriculture, the establishment of interacting city-state systems, and commerce, right? Now look, Native Americans are descendants, listen, of Siberian migrants. I'm gonna read it again, just so I'm sure, just so people don't say that, oh, Cal, you being racist, man. You know what I mean? You just, no, we just bringing out the facts of what's known. You dig what I'm talking about? Because they've been trying to tell me I'm somebody I'm not for a long time. Dig this. Native Americans are descendants of Siberian migrants that penetrated the American continent some 40 to 15,000 years ago. All right, we'll give it a chance. These travelers are thought to have originated in South Altaic region of Central Asia. This is Mongolia and Siberia. Based on the genetic data, it has been proposed that the expansion to America took place in three main stages: Trans-Siberian dispersion of Paleolithic people from South Altai region to Beringia as early as 40,000 years ago, or two, the settlement of Beringia and migrational hiatus that could have lasted 15,000 years. Well, okay, let's just read it. And three, a trek from Beringia into the America continent. Okay, so they trying to tell y'all that this happened in three stages. So remember, they had, what their theory is that they came over here during the Younger Dryas. Now this is a glacial maximum. In the place that they're trying to say, Beringia, where these people crossed that, where land and of Siberia and eastern Russia touches or almost touches the America, there was a ice sheet miles high. So you saying at the coldest point, hundreds and hundreds of degrees below zero, up in the polar ice circle, these people are living on top of a glacier for 15,000 years? I doubt it. You dig what I'm talking about? For 15,000 years. Now, mind you, the Younger Dryas only lasted 1,300 years. That's it. So how are you sitting there? First of all, if the Younger Dryas, right, this event that you're saying you walked over didn't happen, only happened in between 10,800 BC and 9,600 BC, That's the glacial maximum. That's the only time they could have walked across. Right? That's only 12,000 years ago. So how'd you get here 15,000 years ago? And how are you sitting on an ice cap that doesn't exist yet? Now, I'm not saying my Native American brothers not an ancient people. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is this is why you scared to do them blood tests. Because it's going to bring out the fact of who really an Indian and who ain't. I'm going to show y'all why you can't even test bones in North America. Why we ain't already put this to bed. You see what I'm saying? Because we can do the test. You get the oldest bones and you do a blind test on a couple hundreds of people of all denominations. And whoever got the genes like the oldest is descent from the oldest. That'll tell you without you trying to tell us what it is. We'll let the information speak for itself. We'll let the genetics speak for themselves. And how much you want to bet that the American Negro is more like them ancient people than them people that they call the Native Americans today? How much you want to bet? So let's finish to see what they saying. Let's see what they saying. Okay. We do know that humans got to Monteverde, Chile, in extreme South America 14,500 years ago. That's before the Younger Dryas, so it couldn't have been these people, the Native Americans. This is 2,000 years before, 2,500 years before the Younger Dryas, where these people are supposedly coming across on the Beringian Strait. I'm just using their math. And we see that there are people in Mount Verde 2,500 years before these people get to America. Who are these people? In addition, Clovis remains belonging to Y haplogroup QL54 from western Montana indicate the gene flow from Siberia to America. So that proves Clovis ain't a nigga because he from Siberia. So the Clovis men are of this stock and not even Aboriginal Americans. Happened before 12,600 years, indicating prior to the divergence among Native American groups. Paleo natives reached the region known today as Mesoamerica around 10,000 to 16,000 years ago. These original settlers were hunter-gatherers surviving on wild animals, collecting wild plants, shellfish, possibly fishing within the traditional Mayan region, right? A number of settlements have been found at Los Tiapales in Quiche Basin in the highlands of Guatemala, dating to 10,000, 11,000 BC. About 11,000, 8,000 years ago, or 6,000 BC, it is thought. So they think that these people started selecting plants that provided for sustenance, but we see the Mayas already domesticated corn and wild wheat 1,000 years before 6,000 BC. So the Mayans, these people who they trying to tie these Native Americans to, already domesticated uh, uh, corn in America 7,000 BC, 1,000 years before this day. It is, look again, they're making it up. It is thought that these efforts eventually lead into the situ development of agriculture and domestication of animals. An agrarian mode of existence combined with the domestication of animals provided surplus food for communal consumption during lean times and ushered a new era of centralized government, population growth, and creativity. The Proto-Archaic Mayans are first detected in what we know today as Kickin, central Guatemala, about 4,000 years ago. The region of Kickin is considered the birthplace of Mayan civilization. The Cibao in the Pasión region of Kickin represents the earliest known Mayan sedentary community discovered thus far, dating back to about 3,000 years ago. The Sevilla location corresponds roughly to the collection area of the Quiche population. Hold on, let me go down a little bit more. Because what you end up finding out about these modern Mayans, right, is through their Y chromosome, which is their father's line, right, that 75%, listen, 75% of their male modern DNA from this Q line, 75% of it is European DNA. So they going down and testing these people that's saying they Mayan, but they don't. When they come back with a blood that's not Mayan. That's this. Or this. And that's not what we coming with. These are different people. Hold on. I want to show y'all that these people are talking about the what you would call Mongoloidal type or Eurasian, which is what they really are. European and Asian, like your Inuit or your modern res type. Let me show you. I want to show y'all where. Let me get to it. Let me get to it. right here. The phylogenetic relationship of the Y SNP mutation and the haplogroups they define are provided in figure 2. The vast majority of the Mayan populace today from the different regions belong to haplogroup QM242. Remember that, right? These is the modern Native American Juan Valdez, Pablo Escobar, looking Spanish people, right? They show them from the Quechua, the Cachical, the Quiche, the Yucatan, and the Itza, carrying this YM242 Y snippet, right? What did I tell you these people were? Overall, all 5 Mayan populations exhibit very limited haplogroup diversity compared, for example, to Eurasian and African populations. Is predominant haplogroup 51-80% through the area. Second in abundance haplogroup QL454 and the Yucatan possess a substantial portion of the Eurasian R1b1 haplogroup introduced during subsequent to the European colonization of the 2 regions. Itza is also the popular. These is new niggas. These is not ancient Mayans. Because your haplogroup to your Y, which just boomed recently, is Eurasian. It's also the population with greater haplogroup diversity, mutation that was detected in Yucatan, other than QM3, QL54, or QM194. The other haplogroups detected in many of the 5 Mayan populations can be attributed to post-Columbian migrations from Europe, Asia, Africa, and through C3BP9 is only found in where? North America, and is associated with the Nadine speakers. It is possible that the 4 C3BP9s, P39s, individuals detected in Quiche and 1 3 in Itza are autochthonous Native Americans. Alternatively, so different, right? Alternatively, these 4 may represent Chinese contemporary migrants. Look at that. Told you. In different parts of America. All right. Let's look at the sickle cell variant today. The sickle cell anemia in so-called African Americans, right? Sickle cell anemia or sickle cell disease is the most common form of inherited. So you got to get this from your ancestors. We're going to show that the African carries about 3% of the sickle cell anemia trait. The modern European carries about 2%. And the modern Asian carries about 1.2%. of the sickle cell anemia trait. The Mayans carried about 10 to 13%, 4 times as much as the next highest of the sickle cell anemia trait in their blood as a combatant to the malaria disease, or so they believe, right? Well, guess what? We also here in America have the sickle cell anemia traits on the same level as the Mayans, from 10 to 12%. Nobody gets sickle cell anemia more in the world than the Aboriginal American, the Negro of America. There are roughly, what they say, roughly 48 million Negro Americans, right? 48 million. So you did what I'm talking about. That's about 4.8 million, people that got the disease. 10%. Right? Do you know 3% of all of Africa? There's more than 48 million niggas in Ghana alone. That's just one country over there got 48 million niggas in it. So to have only 3% throughout all them black people, your counts is very low. And for it to be so high in such a small group of people is and leans to show proof that these people who from the same continent, who by the way look like the people, you dig what I'm talking about? The modern Negro looks like the ancient Mayan. He dreadlocked up, he brown, he played basketball. They have a game just like rugby or football. The Mayans play. They played the first game of the first known game of baseball. Them and the Phoenicians played baseball. Not the Phoenicians, the Greeks. Persians, my bad, Persians. That's who fought the Greeks. The Persians played baseball. Right? Sickle cell disease affects African Americans at much higher rates. Now we got to dodge this African American hijack. This is the whole reason we going through this, to show we a whole nother people by blood. The Aboriginal Americans at much higher rates than people of other ethnicities. This is known science. You know what I mean? We just want to show that this come from your mama and your daddy to develop. Highlight this real quick. Sickle cell disease, a newborn must receive 2 copies of the sickle cell gene or sickle cell trait from their parents. People with one sickle cell gene may carry SCT, which typically does not cause severe disease. However, Aboriginal Americans are at a much higher risk of experiencing SCD. Why would we be at much higher risk than anybody else in the world? Because our forefathers had the highest count of sickle cell disease as a evolutionary way to battle malaria. So the highest people who had it anciently would go on and birth the highest people who had it today. They say you got to have it, right? You got to have 2 copies of the sickle cell. One from the mama, one from the daddy. Right? How could African Americans or Aboriginal Americans be higher than anybody else? But first of all, you telling us we African, and African is almost close to 2.2 to 3 is the same as much as Europe got it, and Europe and Asia have the lowest. Why? Because our ancestors already had it. 3% of all them people over there in Africa ain't nothing. That's still, our numbers are still 4 times what theirs is. And we only got 48 million. They got 48 million in one country, and there's 70 of them over there. So do the math. Nobody gets the sickle cell trait more than the American Negro, because his forefathers, the Mayans, had the sickle cell trait more than any other man in the planet also. How do we know that? Because you must get the gene or sickle cell trait from your parents. Researchers believe this could be because SCD evolved in human populations living where malaria is common. Okay. To help protect against the disease. With this in mind, people with SCT may be less likely to develop severe malaria infections, which is fact. Around 50% of the global population live in areas where malaria exists. The condition is common in large regions of Africa. Therefore, SCD and SCT are more common in people whose ancestors lived in the continent. Well, if that's the case, and sickle cell comes from Africa, why don't the Africans have more sickle cell than the American Negro? How do we know? Because we're not the same people. They would have it on par with us, but they don't. Because we don't come from Mother Africa. We come from Father America. Right? Dig this. This is from the National Library of Medicine, right? Sickle cell disease in Africa. This is the abstract. Sickle cell disease is common about much of sub-Saharan Africa, right? Affecting up to 3%. We still outnumber this. Of births in some parts of the continent, some. There are parts where there are none. Nevertheless, it remains a low priority for many health ministries. The most common form of SCD is caused by homozygosity before the B globulin S gene mutation, or SS disease, which is the sickle cell disease. It is widely believed that this condition is associated with very high child mortality. Well, between 1999 and 2002, the American child rate, deaf child mortality rate, went down 42%. Let's see where theirs is. But reliable contemporary data are lacking. We have reviewed available African data on mortality associated with SS disease from published and unpublished sources, with an emphasis on 2 types of studies: cross-sectional population surveys and cohort studies. We have concluded that although, listen, current data are inadequate to support definitive statements, they are consistent with an early life mortality rate of 50 to 90%. So not only do that little 3% of the people in Africa who have this genetic variant, which most likely came from an American. If the American has it in spades, now they try to say that it's because of the malaria that this was created or this happened as an evolutionary solve to the malaria, which could be true. You know what I mean? But it also could not be true because it could be because of another factor. But what we see is when these babies over in Africa get it, 50 to 90% of them die. When we've been thriving with this forever. Thriving. Right? The mortality rate of 50 to 90% among children born in Africa with sickle cell disease, inclusion of SCD interventions and child survival policies and programs in Africa could benefit from more precise estimates of numbers of deaths among children with SCD. But for sure, 50% of them die. Also, in Africa, sickle cell disease is reported to be associated with very high rate of child mortality. 50 to 90% of them have to almost all die. That's very high. Yet there is a lack of reliable, up-to-date information. Most frequently cited study was conducted in the Garki district in rural Nigeria, early 1970s. They had it back then dying. That's crazy. Right? Look at this. Sickle cell trait is more common in certain ethnic groups, including African Americans, Hispanics, South Asians, Caucasians from Southern Europe, people from the Middle East. Huh? Who most likely to have sickle? People of African descent, including African Americans. Bullshit. We got it because the Mayans had it. We not African, and we got more sickle cell than the African. How could they give it to us and we got more than them? 1 in 12 so-called African Americans, Aboriginal Americans, carry the sickle cell gene. And let me show you what the Q. Show you this little study on Native Americans. Because, see, we get sickle cell, right? Right? Hold on. Watch this. What are the haplogroups of the Negro Americans? Watch this. A, B, C, D. Most African Americans' mitochondrial DNA discovered that it traced back to Africa or haplogroup L, right? That's what they saying. Some find that it traces back into Native American lineages. How? If they are Qs, including haplogroups like this is our haplogroup, there's this Q. We are A, B, C, and D. Now look at this. The most widespread haplogroup in sub-Saharan Africans is L2. But also to 70 to 50,000 years of climactic oscillation that drove a mass migration. The remaining lineages fall into L3, 4, 6, i.e. L3. Okay. So they're showing L2 as the dominant haplogroups in Africa, while Americans are showing up A, B, C, D, also O these days. African populations, they don't test these people. And why? And see, this is the craziness right here about DNA. They would try to tell me who I am anciently. You're going to test me against a modern living person. That don't even make sense. He could be from around the corner where I'm at, but he just live in Africa. You test him, and yeah, he may come back to be like what I am. That don't mean that I'm now African or he African. That don't mean that. You see what I'm saying? So we see the Mayans with this sickle cell trait. We find American Negroes with the sickle cell trait. We see Africans with it, but we see other people with it also who come up near the equator where waters and mosquitoes are, everywhere in the world. But the highest people who had it was always in America. And then we find out we got a people who look like these people coming to been finding out the saying they is these people. And that's what they bringing forward. You dig what I'm saying? In today, we bringing forward the fact that, bro, like it or not, we not African. We never needed Africa to be brown. And I'll never let a white man ever tell me who I am. Your whole idea of black and white didn't even come from you. Your whole idea of Indian and native was applied to other people. Crazy part is you got called it first, and then they kept switching. Nobody is has been switched around and misnomered as much as the Negro of America. Why? If we ain't nothing. Maybe you everything. Maybe that's what they trying to hide. Mm-hmm. Now, it's a book, right? Called The Mysteries of Ancient South America, right? And I'm gonna go in here and find this shit real quick. Excuse me, where they was talking about the oldest people in Americas being Indian. And remember, these are white folks telling you what they see. You know, it's only white folks today that can't tell that niggas don't look like Africans. They pretty much think we look the same, but we know we don't. Like, if we walk into a room, we know each other are different. We never even have to speak. You know what I mean? It's not a problem, but it's a truth. There's no problem with us or with them being black or with me being black. I have no. Dig this. Okay. This is from the Mysteries of Ancient South America, right? Page 151. Look at some of the stuff that they saying. Just look at it real quick. My friend, Dr. Price Mars, Senator de la República de President of Society of History and Geography of Haiti, has kindly sent me a copy of a very interesting brochure entitled Les Arts Précolombiens de Haiti, which was published by the authorities of the Republic at the time of the recent Third Congress of the Caribs. In this illuminating booklet are reproduced some striking photographs of discoveries in that island of remains, statues, beteles, statues of a god or the shrine of a deity, and stelae. These remains are of a people of unknown race. Listen. And date who knew not of and date who knew not of iron. Like the race in Atlantean Brazil. They seem to have been Heliolithic or praises of the sun and of very advanced culture. These statues show that two races existed there thousands of years ago. One white, the other black. So we wanted to show you that they talking about these little bearded men, right? These little bearded men and women, but they're all black Negroes. Even the white look like a Negro. And they all got this white hair. Now dig this. The statues show that two races existed there thousands of years ago. One white, the other black. One of the heads is a sculpted funerary face of a white man and another of a white woman of Atlantean type. There is also a remarkable head or mask of a black woman. In America, y'all trying to say she African? In polished but weathered granite of prehistoric date, which bears a strange resemblance in shape and particular coronal dress to a splendid terracotta head of a Negro Venus found in British Nigeria and now in a palace of a native ruler of Ife. Now, remember, this is a white man who got his point of view, and he don't generally like niggas. So anything he see brown, he gonna equate it with Africa. But remember, he talking about Indians in South America, in the Caribbean, right? And much of this, you dig what I'm talking about? What he's seeing, but it's from people, you know, they telling him about people who predate colonization. So I thought this was interesting. There is a remarkable head and mask of a black woman in polished but weathered granite of prehistoric date, which bears a strange resemblance in shape, in particular coronal headdress, to a splendid terracotta head of Negro Venus, found in British Nigeria, and now in the palace of her native ruler of Ife, where it is worshipped as a goddess. As doubtless was the similar head in Atlantean old Haiti. So this black woman, a polished weathered granite. How did you even do that during them times? Polished granite to a shine. Was found in Haiti. The Nigerian head, now you're talking about the one that's in the museum, of a great beauty, was carved by an artist of great skill belonging to a very ancient advanced black civilization in Africa. Frobenius was associated. And you know what? I want to give a shout out to Corey Mayo, because he got me. He brought this book up. You dig what I'm talking about? And it was, hitting on some things that Owaspi be hitting on, and just giving a little insight. You know what I mean? So we was going back, just looking at what it say. You dig what I'm saying? Frobenius, who associated this ancient culture of West Africa with Atlantis, was probably right. Had he seen this similar head in Haiti, he would have also have remembered that in Atlantis and her colonies and empire, red, white, and black races commingled. Part of the old empire of Atlantis extended from the far greater Gulf of Marañón, the Mexican Gulf of today, into the island continent as it was then of the West Indies, not then shattered by cataclysm. One may infer from these pictures in the L'Art Précombien de Haiti that necromancy and black magic of the voodoo type existed in this strange island long ages before ever a Spanish or French introduced Negro slaves into old Hispaniola. So where did these people come from? They come from right where they say they come from. They saying they Indians. Before a Negro slave came into Haiti. Who can say whether such black coats came there from their motherland of Atlantis, far gone in decay? You know what I mean? I thought that was interesting, but the crazy part is that these people know. I want to show y'all where they get to talking about these. I just got into this book a little earlier, and I should have marked the exact page. But they were talking about the indigenous man, the aboriginal man of the Americas was not the mongoloidal type, but he was black, negroidal. You dig what I'm talking about? And they were calling them troglodytes. Troglodyte means caveman, but if you make your house out of rocks, you could also, through the European mind, be seen as a caveman. Hold on, I want to show. Where they talk about these people going and actually attacking the Inca, going having wars, and these people, they say, predate the Caribs, who they say were the first of their type in that area. You dig what I'm saying? They say the Caribs is older than everybody, but the Caribs say these people predate them. Where is this at? Because it says the people, it clearly states that the people that they seen when they came here looked like Africans. But remember, in 1492, they went to Haiti. They went to Puerto Rico. They never even got to Brazil, where they say Abu Bukhari came in 310. Okay. I'm not going to say or deny or say that he didn't get here, but he was in Brazil. So when the people that come from Europe with Colombo get here, they describe what they knew. See, either they knew or had an idea of what they thought that they was going to see once they got to India, because either thought you was going to India and you got lost, or either you knew where you was going, you just didn't know what the people looked like when you got there. And when you got there, the closest thing that you could say that these people, these Aboriginal Americans that you met when you got here, the closest thing that they look like, the same thing that you saying we look like today, even though we don't, is African. How, if these people are already American? How? How can a Siberian ever become an American? It don't work that way. You can't come from Africa, mess with Africans, mix with somebody else, mix back with some Africans, mix with somebody else, mix with some who, mix with, and now you American. That's not how it works. You still an African. You still a Siberian. You just stay in America. There's a people from North America. The Angui is commonly called today the Negro. And we've been all through this thing. North, South, Central, Caribbean, everything. There ain't no place we ain't been. And wasn't the first. Let me see. Dig this. In Guayaquil Museum on the coast of Ecuador, I have seen strange stone armchairs, which look as if they had come across broad seas from those wild moors of old Cornwall in the neighborhood of St. Just or pixie haunted ruins of Chapeau Carbria, where the ancient kings of Cornwall or the white-bearded archdruids sat in granite seats and drank from the great golden goblets of mead. Wilhelm Home sky blasted notes while blown from bronze golden trumpets upraised under ancient mystic moon. Yet these strange stone chairs from the northern border of the state of Ecuador, where there is a large field encircled by similar chairs. What nation of ancient South America met in a strange conclave and sat in these mighty stone seats as if they had been meeting on a Wilshire plain in Stonehenge or down in Lavendi or among the gray Cromwells of Brittany? Somewhere. So they got these massive chairs cut out the sides of mountains. Again, in the same country of Ecuador, on the seashore, close to a place called Esmeraldas, queer relics have been found which are not only pre-Incan, but seem to have preceded the old European Stone Age, the Haciendadero. Senior Munoz points out that these submarine relics, which include fine statues and busts of almost Tanagra type, and both men and women, are of almost every race, white, yellow, and black, in the world, including Japanese, and of some that no longer exist. This race, in its unknown day, perhaps 100,000 years ago, may have ranged right across old Brazil, for in Marajo Island, a prehistoric graveyard at the mouth of the Amazon Marañón, or which is the Gulf of Mexico, one finds in a series of amazing ceramics exactly the same very types of human beings represented on funerary urns. Esmeraldas has also carrion statues. Let me see. Get into this mug. Here go another. This is learning series: genes, race, and medicine. Arizona's Pima Indians have the world's highest rate of diabetes. See, that Q blood is high in diabetes, as this disease that affects the people the most in so-called or in the Aboriginal American, right? Ours is sickle cell. and the rest of the world is catching up fast. Can genetics figure out why? Now, we don't want to get down here and read all this stuff, but I did want to show you know, see, genetics work both ways. Genetics works both ways. Now you can show who you kin to anciently, right? But then that get into proving, but what if somebody is already trying to say that they them people? And you can prove genetically that they not. It ain't in their best interest to, you dig what I'm talking about, blasting that out, because they could lose their tribal affiliation because really you not the people that you claim to be, right? Let me see. Right. Now, I just want to read this part and then we're going to drop down. Across the Indian country of the West, the collective feelings about genetic research are not hard to discern. Now, the crazy part about this is, do you know you can't test the bones in North America? Why? Because these people are saying you can't. They have a whole, let me just bring it up. They got a whole institute in the Department of Business of Indian Affairs, Bureau of Indian Affairs. No. Damn. Let me show you. Here it go. Nah. Right. This is why you can't test on nothing. Because they hide in these people history. Because these people are really Europeans. They these people. Look, these Indians, no, they Native Americans. Hold on. Since 1990, federal law has provided for the repatriation and disposition of certain Native American human remains, funerary objects, sacred objects, and objects of cultural patrimony. By enacting NAGPRA, Congress recognizes that human remains of any ancestry must at all times be treated with dignity and respect. Congress also acknowledges that human remains and other cultural items removed from the federal or tribal lands belong in the first instance to lineal descendants, Indian tribes, Native Hawaiian organizations. This law, Congress sought to encourage a continuing dialogue between the museums and Indian tribes and Native Hawaiian organizations, and to promote a greater understanding between the groups, while at the same time recognizing the important functions museums serve in the society by preserving the past. But what they're talking about is repatriating the bodies back. But see, they taking them out, right? But with the repatriation, they don't let you do any work on them. So you can't even, because of NAGPRA, you can't get past the blood test in North America. You see what I'm saying? So it's a whole little system set up to keep it hidden. Remember, you dig what I'm talking about? This ain't to bring up nothing, but you got to remember. We got to remember. Our European brothers, black and white, enslaved us, but so did the Native Americans. So remember, they was in cahoots with the European. They praised them when they came over here. They praised him. They thought he was a god. They thought they was God. So it is what it is. Uh uh, there were a reddish skinned race. Though among them, as remarkably statuary dug up from the ruined show, were also black men with prognostic features or nigger-like features. One splendid piece of terracotta depicts in beautiful colors a high priest of the sun with remarkably Egyptian eyes and having on his fine large forehead a meter and the sign of evolution called by Bolivian archaeologists el simbolo escalonado, the stairway sign. Only a race that had attained a very high degree of civilization, perhaps more than 25,000 years ago, interesting, would have reached such a concept of descent from some mystic central sun symbolizing the great and unknown Godhead of the cosmos. There was a collage of surgeons who, in Bronze Age Tiwanaku, trepanned with bronze knives. Interesting. Interesting. I wanted to show this part. Oh, what? Yeah, okay. Look. Dig this. Two mighty continents vanished, apparently almost in a day and a night, and at the same time. Most part of Mu or Lemuria in the Pacific, and had survived an earlier catastrophe, and Atlantis in the northern tropical part of the Atlantic Ocean. Alike with these ancient lost continents, this riddle of a city of Tiwanaku in incredible age, perhaps even 30,000 years old, has suffered cataclysms separated by great intervals of time, and probably in the far off day before what we what are now the Andes arose. Wow. For the second time from the bed of the Pacific Ocean. Wow. One may be forgiven when contemplating the amazing command of these ancient engineers and masons over vast masses of the rock in a way that can hardly be rivaled in modern engineers with all their wonderful technique and power appliances for speculating whether they were a race of giants in stature. If they were a race of giants, a race of the giants in the earth in those days, who built this strange city, it is clear that when they vanished from the earth, whether by inundation and volcanism in some Pacific lost continental island or on the Andes themselves, they left behind them degenerate men who too were master builders in stone. This is no fantasy of mine. It is a story of very ancient Peruvian tradition. For in the reign of the Inca Ayatarco Cuso, Inca 12, giants entered Peru from the sea. Fernando Montesinos, native of Osuna in Old Spain, probably derived this story from the lost MSS of the famous Blas Valera, whose mother was a Peruvian lady and father a conquistadorian soldier. These giants arrived in boats made of reeds. Mm. Or a sort of rushes, and they landed from the Pacific off the point Santa Elena, close to Puerto Vallejo, Vallejo, in the old empire of Peru. The times were extremely remote, says the Indians, and we had the tradition from our parents. There was a particular story told by the Quichua Peruvian Indians to Don Cieza de Leon, the old Spanish soldier priest, in AD 1545. These giants from the sea were so great in stature that from the knee down, they were as tall as a man. Mm. It was amazing to see how the hair hung from their great heads to their shoulders, yet they were beardless. They ate more than 50 ordinary men. Damn. They was eating men. So first of all, 6 feet tall. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm a nigga knee. It's a whole nother third of body go up on that. These 18-foot people, 15 foot. What? Hold on. Hold on. What they say? Oh, and they 8 niggas. They ate more than 50 ordinary men. Their eyes were big as plates, como pequeños platos. Their arms and legs were proportionately huge. Some were clad in skins of animals, others quite naked. No woman came with them. Going inland, they ravaged the country, and finding no water, these builders in great stones set to and sank an immensely deep well in the living rock. And today, in AD 1545, the water of this ancient well is so clear and cold and wholesome that it is a pleasure to drink of it. This well the giants lined with masonry from top to bottom, and so well are these wells made that they will last for ages. The giants overran all lowland Peru, beat down the puny resistance of the Indians, and took their women to wife. But they ruined the women, for they were too big for them, and the women were ruptured and died. Dang. Then they ate you. Cieza de Leon also tells how in Cusco in AD 1560, in the days of the viceroyalty of Don Antonio de Mendoza, a tomb was found containing large human bones, and says that similar bones were already found in Mexico City. Let none suppose these were bones of dinosaurs or other prehistoric mammoth mammals, any more than were the bones of giants of huge greatness, which, says another old Spanish missioner and historian, Padre Acosta, were found around Manta, Peru in AD 1560. This Manta is identical with the Manta of the Central Road of Ecuador, where bones of similar human giants were found in a cave in 1928 behind great stalagmites on the petrified floor. The remains found in this cave were of ancient men over 8 feet in height. And the stalagmites testifying to the remote age of the bones were of immense size. Scientists know how long such stalagmites take to grow. Similar remains of giant men also have been found on the Pacific shores of modern Mexico. In this 8th decade of De Orbo Novo, Peter Matthier Angera tells of a queer story of that Diego de Ordaz, who subsequently went out on an El Dorado quest into the interior of eastern South America. Diego was he who, according to Las Casas in his Historia de las Indias, climbed the high volcano of Popocatépetl, Popocatépetl near Mexico City, says Peter Martyr, his last name Martyr. De Ordaz found in the sanctuary of a temple the thigh bone of a giant, which had been cut and half gnawed away with age. This bone was brought to Victoria to be sent to Rome to the Pope, said Ordaz. I have preserved this bone, which measures from the neck to the kneecap 5 cubits, about 8 feet 4 inches, from the neck to the kneecap. Damn. I'm looking at that right now. Neck to the kneecap. That's without the head or the legs below. You already 8'4". You was a big guy. You was a big dude. It was a 10-footer, easy. Maybe a 12-footer. But you was a big boy. Its width is in proportion. So it's wide and big. Big old boy. He ain't no skinny old scrawny fella. Everything in proportion. He massive. Men sent by Cortez to the mountains of the south later discovered the country inhabited by these giants. In testimony of their discovery, they had brought back several ribs torn from the dead bodies. This race of giants entered Mexico in some far distant day near Tepec. Senor de Valda in 1938 found a series of these very ancient grave mounds, wherein were skeletons of men and women lying under thin slabs of gray stone of salty blue color. The skeletons were all from 8 to 9 feet tall. No traces of metal was found in these ancient Mexican graves, but there were fragments of unglazed pottery and bowls with a pattern of painted Greek line meander design in blue, red lines. Senor de Valda took a foot and arm each of the skeletons and showed them to Dean Cummings. It has been found that giants ranged far south in South America into what is now Patagonia. Years ago, indeed, Charles Darwin landing on a fjord in Ultima Esperanza, entered a cave where he found dung balls of chewed grass lying close to the gigantic bones of a monstrous prehistoric type of Mylodon. Only giant men, it may be, could have tamed such huge animals at that far time of day and used them as they did as beasts of burden. We've heard this before. It may or may not be that those were descendants of this incredibly ancient race of giant men who overwhelmed the warm lowlands of Peru, as the Ayar Inca traditions tell, and forced the ancestors of the early Incas to retreat to walled mountain cities 12,000 feet up in the Cordilleras and Paramos above old Cusco, where the city of retreat hung like a fly on the ceiling and was reached by men toiling painfully up 536 hand-hewn mason steps, past tiers of white granite walls with gradient of 50 degrees. This is crazy. The ruins of the ancient refuge city were found in 1940 by Axel Wintergren expedition led by Dr. Paul Fejos. The Peruvian authorities at Lima intend to make a automobile road to this strange dead city. Man, you dig what I'm talking about. Now, we started off just showing, let me see, make sure y'all can see that. We started off just showing, shout out, to the creative gang in the house, how the descendants of the Maya, and now it's commonly known through science that the Maya suffered some of the highest form of sickle cell anemia in the known historic times. The people who would descend from them, who would be the second highest, who would descend from them, would naturally get the trait from their mothers and fathers, right? The highest anciently, Mayans, the highest modernly is the American Negro, the Aboriginal of America. You know what I mean? You can only get this genetically from your mother and your father. Africans only carry about 3%. All of them only carry about 3%. They're out of the 48 million, right? Out of the 48 million, roughly 10 to 12% of Negro Americans carry the sickle cell trait. In the same amounts, 10 to 13% for the ancient Mayan. The modern tests show that these people ain't like the ancient Mayan. They don't have the sickle cell trait. As a matter of fact, their disease of, I don't want to say choice, but the disease of their haplogroup is high blood pressure, diabetes. You can only get this from your mother and your father, showing through DNA that the highest then would produce the highest now. You know, ain't no coincidence we telling you we Aboriginal. I'm not saying that the natives weren't here and they've been here a long time. I'm saying before y'all got here, we was already admixed, already Negroes. And then we mixed in with some of y'all mixed in with some of us, and shout out to you because y'all kept a lot of this Aboriginal or Native American information. You dig what I'm talking about? And we learning back the stuff that our forefathers gave to y'all. We getting it back. So shout out to the Native Americans, man, for keeping this stuff going on. You dig what I'm talking about? Some of this stuff is right on point. What ain't, I don't rock with. I don't, you know what I mean? But as in being the people who, living in teepees and rolling place to place. We not them people. That's how a migrant would live. Somebody who came from another place would live. We talking about the people who build them great cities. We them people. Did we wear feathers? Yeah, sometimes. Did we dance around, pray to Jah? Of course we did. You know what I mean? And during certain prayer festivals and dance festivals, we did set up the conical smokehouse. But we didn't live in them like everybody else did. We wasn't out there doing that. No. Wearing war bonnets and nah, man. We didn't do none of that trash. No, that's not us. We predate them people. Shout to them though. You know what I mean? But we get why you don't want to go ahead and hold on, let me go up here real quick. Cause I did want to finish reading this. The Navajo at almost 300,000, the largest tribal population, have ruled out all participation in genetic studies. I wonder why. The Northern Plain tribes, which are mainly Sioux, have devised stiff protections and protocols many pages long. Researchers making proposals are required to state how the Indians could be harmed by the DNA findings as well as helped. If they was worried about who they was, if they would show, they wouldn't be worried about this. You're really European. That's what we're finding out. Last year, the tiny Havasupai tribe of northern Arizona filed a $50 million lawsuit against Arizona State University and the scientists over a long-term project that looked for genes contributing to diabetes. The Indians claimed that their consent was abused. Their blood samples were mishandled. And look how this is how they apply NAGRA. And they gonna get this shit snatched up out of there. Watch this. The Indians claimed that their consent was abused, their blood sample was mishandled, and that sacred information was written up without permission. What sacred information in your blood? They're just trying to say the blood is sacred. Almost as an aside, the lawsuit points out that no diabetes genes were revealed. Huh? The researchers have denied legal charges. The climate isn't totally hostile, right? Watch this. Okay, let's just start here. Jacob Moore, an Indian who manages legislative affairs for the Salt River tribe, gave me a blunt explanation for the weariness. The tribes in general have been taken advantage of for so long that there's distrust. The attitude is mainstream society has taken everything else. Once they have our genetic code, there isn't anything left they can take from us. It goes on to say, by genetic code, Moore did not mean the DNA that all people share. He was referring to a core identity that is, though he didn't say so, both cultural and biological. On both fronts, Indians are being threatened by assimilation, while maintaining their tribal affiliations. Most Native Americans do not live on reservations. They intermarry with other ethnic groups. Already their DNA shows substantial European American heritage. This exchange between population groups can be tracked through distinctive sets of genetic markers that provide clues to a person's ancestries, and these are your cues. These markers are alleles that have accumulated in different proportions among the world's populations. These markers aren't genes. Often they are meaningless expressions of DNA sequence that lie interspersed between genes that are inherited, just as genes are. A single marker doesn't carry much information about ancestry. Only a combination of markers does. Let's say, now this is how DNA works. Let's say your lab is handed an anonymous blood sample for DNA analysis. Testing for a single marker doesn't tell you much about the person's background, because that one allele, whatever form it takes in the person, probably occurs in every band of people on the earth. But a select panel of markers, each chosen for its frequency in one population and its infrequency in another, can be used to make reliable predictions about the ancestry of a person. So yeah, we don't turn down DNA. We're not scared of it. It's just about how you apply it. You know what I mean? Because we can show what we saying. Let me just blow it up just a little bit. So watch this. Let's finish this up. You may have to test 100 markers or even 500, and the cost will be extravagant, but it can be done. See what I'm saying? This is not the same as constructing a DNA match, as in a paternity suit or a criminal investigation where just a handful of markers is needed. The bottom line, all human beings inherit the same set of genes, but the various chemical spellings of our genes bear some relation to the geographic origins of our forebears. Facts. So when geneticists dispute the biological notion of race with its false implications that certain genes pertain to certain races, they also recognize that DNA analysis can shed light on ancestry. Not surprisingly, a scientist who studies markers for clues to ancestral origin is not, listen, is not a welcome figure in Indian country. Why? Because you can expose niggas. Why? The test might call into question who is an Indian. Why would it do that? Because you're going to find out that you really a European. You may even possibly be Eurasian, but you're not aboriginal to America. You're a Siberian. You come from Inuit stock, and ain't nothing wrong with that. And ain't nobody trying to take nothing from you. What we just trying to say is we trying to get our own and do our own thing. Don't hate. Stop the hate. That's all I'm saying. Watch this. Not surprisingly, a scientist who studies markers for clues to ancestral origin is not a welcome figure in the Indian country. Crazy part is niggas is begging to get these tests. Huh? We die to get this stuff because it's going to prove who we say we is. If we can test against all the oldest bones. The test might call into question who is just an Indian for real. A question with psychological pitfalls. You're gonna be fucked up because you've been told your whole life and convinced and indoctrinated into believing you was the first people in America too. They told us that the real Indian looked like y'all, the kind of whitish, yellowish, mongoloid type is the real Indian. Y'all ain't it. That's not true. The real Indian of America look like me. Copper color, negroidal. Irregardless of skin color, he negroidal. So much so that they thought he was African. A question with psychological pitfalls and also this is what the problem is. He bringing it out. Why they don't want to do this stuff? Because they gonna get exposed that you not no Indian, or you is an Indian, which ain't Aboriginal. A question with psychological pitfalls and also financial consequences. For one, claiming benefits, say, from the tribe's investments. Robert Williams, the anthropological geneticist at Arizona State University, collided with the question in a study for Strong Heart Cardiovascular Project. His analysis of 12 tribal groups was abruptly halted after he found that the amount of European heritage varied widely among the groups. Ooh-wee. He was exposing that they was white folks, $5 Indians. They can't stop that money. They getting that bread. You did what I'm talking about right off of the American backs. We pay for it. The crazy part is them Indians stole the land from the Aboriginals, right? The Indians then turn around and sell the land to the white man. This is why it was cool to enslave you, because they was taking your shit. Studies of the Indians' origins are another sore point. Ha! They mad. The peopling of the Americas, how Indians came here and when, has been the subject of countless PhD theses and scientific articles, and it's still a theory. I just give it to them because I don't feel like arguing. You did what I'm talking about. We can see around that even if we Give you that you came over here during the Younger Dryas. We see the problem with it. 17,000 years ago wasn't no Younger Dryas. You couldn't have got here in little boats, canoes, basically. Studies of the Indians' origins are another sore point. The thrust of the genetic and archaeological evidence is that the ancestors of Native Americans walked or paddled from Siberia. Look, they're not even from here. They paddled from Siberia between 13,000, 17,000 years ago. At the height of the last ice age, the height of the last ice age, let me just get it out, is roughly 12,000 years ago. Later than all them days, between 10,800 BC and 9,600 BC is the Younger Dryas. That's the maximum. 1,200 years. That's it. No more. So how you get here during the last glacial maximum when that's pre-glacial maximum? But any Native American of a traditional bent already knows where he or she came from, Siberia. Unless the knowledge has been lost, each tribe has a story of its creation. The Havasupai, for instance, believe their ancestors emerged from beneath the earth of the Grand Canyon. Some people have an insecurity because their beliefs are being threatened, said Francine Romero, an Indian health researcher who specializes in population genetics. The fear is that the research is going to cast doubt not only on who they are, but also on their relationship to their environment. So a lie should hold that up. Need to rip that Band-Aid off. But I still rely on my traditional beliefs. The two are complementary for me. 100 years from now, what we know about science will have changed too. Facts. So don't be scared of the change now. The present scientific understanding is that the starting point of all human beings is Africa. We'll go on to debunk that. Our genes are oriented and evolved there, and more variants emerge as we disperse. But did the most genetic flow happen in Africa? Is that proven? Just because different people mix don't mean more admixing didn't happen somewhere else. Native Americans, therefore, are the youngest people in the world, having been the last to break off from the migratory pathway of humanity. But where on the pathway do the Indians' diseases arise? On the argument holds that a condition like type 2 diabetes, because it occurs in populations everywhere, was a latent passenger on the journey from Africa. How did you go? Wait a minute, from Africa? You from Siberia. The diabetes success dodge that hijack, according to this theory, are old. Another argument is that Darwinian pressure put upon the Asians. But wait a minute, the Asians, I thought we was in Africa, who struggled through the ice to the New World. Why would they go that way? They walked all the way out of Africa through Asia. How? No, these are Asians who got to America, who struggled through the ice to the New World was so extreme that most didn't survive. But you trying to tell me they walked to goddamn Peru? Group DNA was forced into a genetic bottleneck. We don't see that at that time, which stretched the old baggage away. What emerged on the far side was a rare suite of genetic variants that have since expanded in Native Americans. Accordingly, the Indians' brand of diabetes is theirs alone. It may be different from the condition in Europe or in Africa, though the environment triggers are the same. How? You just argued that theirs is different, and these maladies come up because of the different environments and the makeup of the people. So they can't get one of their own, especially if you aboriginal to America. Because if you was aboriginal to America, you'd have the diseases of the aboriginal America, which is the sickle cell trait, because we had malaria here. Nah, y'all got diabetes traits because y'all food is heavy in fish and oil and raw meat. You know what I mean? Just wanted to show, real quick, Kosmon don't be just talking, man. I want you to look at what the Mayans painted themselves to look like. Right? I want you to look. Now, also, this is DNA test concludes that the Maya had sickle cell anemia. Kosmon don't just be talking. But just to give you a little visual on this, you did. Who is that? Who is these dark skinned people with all the sickle cell and turbans and do rags on, gold teeth on, with diamonds and crystals in their teeth? Look at how the Mayans painted themselves. Who look like this today? Mayas played basketball. Did I not tell you? Look at this nigga right here with the fro. Naughty dread man them. Look, dreads. Hold on, look. Who is that? Do you remember who you are? With the dreads. Clyde Winters is, that's the OG, man. That's one of the OGs. That's one of the founders of this shit. But he did the best with what he had. You dig what I'm talking about? He didn't know, and just like his white peers that he was trying to fit in with. You dig what I'm talking about? And come with some knowledge that they wasn't coming with. He was still stuck in an African dichotomy. You know what I mean? I'm sure when he found these people, you dig what I'm saying? It was easy to tie the people in. You know what I mean? Because, well, you're looking at historically, you tie in people who come through the this Pacific and the African and the Atlantic slave trade after colonization. Oh yeah, well if you're looking at them people and you applying this Akan or whatever African language you applying to these people who telling you they Indians from America. Now mind you, they not saying they African. He's saying they African. So you know what I mean. You got to dodge the hijack of even the OGs. I mean, you dig what I'm talking about, and really do your studies on your own because they'll get you looking in a whole different direction, and you be so focused on Africa and Egypt and Kemet and all that shit going on over there that you ain't worried about the ground that your feet is standing on. You're not worried about what's going on right around you. You know what I mean? So let's let's see. Facts. It's ridiculous. Just wanted to drop that real quick. You dig what I'm talking about? You know, hope everybody learning a little something today. You dig what I'm talking about? If you got a little something up out of the lesson today, hit me with a 1 in the chat. Hit your boy with a 1 in the chat. You know what I mean? As always, you know your boy love y'all. You know your boy love y'all, man. I ain't gonna hold y'all up much longer. You dig what I'm talking about? Go on, get up off this thing, man. It's getting late. About to wrap one up, man. Go on, blast off in the space. Put my moon boots on, man. My goggles. It's cold outside. You dig what I'm talking about? As always, man. Thank y'all for showing up, showing out, man. Peace to the righteous gods and Nirvanian goddesses. You dig what I'm talking about? Breathe in. Let the light in. Kosmonian, baby. Now, mom.
And oh yeah, put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feel it when you're feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh,
it's that Jehovih, that chow mein, that pepper bull, that towel mein. Since sunset in the arc of Wayne, my brain moving like Tao Sang. So as above, it's so below. That up and that down thing. This flow is atmospheric. I call that a ground game. See, water is knowledge, so if I'm teaching, you're learning. So how your God make a sun without vortexing and current? See, the pattern is ponic. I'm reaching out for my people. Oh, watch me flow through your speakers. You feel the force of the ether. And when the force gets the equal, I'm taking off like an eagle. Police popped the pastor yesterday for pushing put equal. My DNA is Moshe. Mix that thing with higher water. My spirit rate is OTN. It's just a higher order. Got more light than Kavita. Rap a lot just like Tila. Went from sinner to saint. Shout out my big homie Sealer. Got more torque than a sports car. Got more work than a door stop. In the 4 million I make, I'm giving the Dr. Umar. Oh yeah.
Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you're feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh yeah.
Super 7 in my rites and ceremonies. I'm married to Jehovah, holy matrimony. Confucius say, in the words of Caillou, before you hit the tomb, be a bridegroom. Only got one question for Miss Susan B. On how to last Ahuin is now a Angui. Blame my inspiration, I'm just thinking thoughts. But in the way of God's, we gon' keep it short. Why Jesus wanna kill me, Matthew 10:34. Just a couple questions that I'm needing to know. Oh, watch me flow, it's so potent. Set the vortex in motion. Super 7, I'm floating across the Aegean Ocean. Oh, you a Muslim now, so I guess you making salat. Well, I'm an Israelite, I'ma make him at the Shabbat. Got Moses on the bumper, super slap off in my spaceship photosphere. So I stay lit, peace and light to the faith is so yeah.
Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you're feeling up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air. When you're breathing rarefied air, oh yeah. Put that Super 7 in the air. Tell me how you feeling when you feel it up there. When you in the sky breathing rarefied air.